Pablo Escobar.
Pablo Escobar could be a charismatic type person to get what he wanted. But he could turn evil in a heartbeat and he might be dead.
The former home of Pablo Escobar, a second hidden safe was unearthed. The drug lord was known to have hidden piles of money and drugs.
What if the most dangerous man in history left behind more than just memories? What secrets lie beneath the cracked floors and crumbling walls of estates once ruled by unimaginable power? For decades, whispers circulated about vaults buried deep underground, sealed chambers holding more than just cash. Recently, after years of silence, one of Pablo Escobar's hidden vaults was finally cracked open. What investigators pulled from the darkness wasn't just wealth, it was proof of an empire built on blood, paranoia, and control.
Anybody who went against Escobar would die.
Stay with us as we walk through the twisted corridors of Escobar's secret world and uncover what really hid beneath his kingdom. The rise of a street criminal turned drug lord. Pablo Escobar's rise to infamy began in the shadow of Medellin's unforgiving streets. Born into poverty, he understood from a young age that power came not from privilege, but from fear. He started at the bottom robbing graves, erasing names, and selling tombstones back to desperate families. That ruthlessness became his trademark. Escobar didn't just want money, he wanted control. By his teens, he was stealing cars, running protection rackets, and commanding loyalty through intimidation. Each scheme grew darker, each success more violent. Medellin's underworld quickly learned his name, whispered with both dread and respect. Escobar's genius lay in his ability to turn crime into commerce, chaos into empire. Long before cocaine made him the king of Medellin,
in 1974, Medellin, Colombia is known as a hub for smuggling contraband all over North and South America.
he had already mastered the art of manipulation, knowing exactly how to bend fear into fortune. His criminal journey was only beginning, and the world had no idea what was coming next. By the early 1970s, Escobar had graduated to kidnapping. But unlike others who released their victims after payment, Escobar often didn't. In 1971, a businessman named Diego Echevarria was snatched and executed even after his family paid $50,000. That single act sent a message across Colombia. Pablo Escobar didn't play by the rules. He wrote his own. Then came cocaine. In 1976, Escobar was arrested with 39 kilograms hidden inside a spare tire. It should have been the end. Instead, it became his blueprint. He bribed his way out of prison, and the officer who arrested him, gone. Silenced. From that moment on, Escobar lived by a brutal motto: plata o plomo, silver or lead.
Very famous word established by Pablo Escobar: plata or plomo, bullet or money.
Take the bribe or take the bullet. There was no third option. His influence spread like wildfire. Escobar poured cash into Colombia's political system, buying loyalty from both sides. In April 1978, he gathered with other traffickers on a remote farm. That meeting gave birth to the Medellin cartel. Within months, they were smuggling nearly 19,000 kilograms of cocaine into the United States. Demand exploded, and Escobar was ready to feed it. He partnered with Carlos later and turned Norman's Cay in the Bahamas into a smuggling fortress. Private airstrips, docks, refrigerated warehouses. It was a drug highway straight into America's heartland. The money that poured in was beyond comprehension. Escobar wasn't just getting rich, he was drowning in wealth. With that fortune, he built Hacienda Nápoles, a sprawling 7,400-acre estate filled with lakes, a private zoo stocked with exotic animals.
Hacienda Nápoles comes in. In 1978, he purchased a 7,000-acre estate 3 hours from Medellin in Colombia and used the land to create his own personal paradise.
And life-sized dinosaur statues. It wasn't just a home, it was a declaration, a monument to his untouchable power. But Escobar knew wealth alone wouldn't protect him. So he became a public hero. He built schools, hospitals, soccer fields, and housing projects in Medellin's poorest neighborhoods. To many, he was Robin Hood, a man who stole from the rich and gave to the forgotten. His image was so strong that in 1982, he entered Congress as a Liberal Party representative. He claimed his fortune came from a bicycle rental business. Nobody dared question it publicly. That is, until Justice Minister Rodrigo Lara Bonilla did. He called Escobar exactly what he was, a drug lord. Liberal leader Luis Carlos Galán threw him out of the party. Humiliated, Escobar withdrew from politics in January 1984. 3 months later, Lara Bonilla was assassinated. The message was clear.
The late Senator Luis Galán, who was murdered by drug assassins last week. Police also found and disarmed.
Cross Escobar and you disappear. His war then turned toward the courts. Judges were bribed, threatened, or killed. Escobar had one demand: no extradition to the United States. When the government refused, he funded Los Extraditables, a violent network dedicated to fighting extradition with bombs and bloodshed. In November 1985, guerrillas stormed Colombia's Palace of Justice, killing more than half of the Supreme Court justices. Though never proven, many believed Escobar orchestrated it. When extradition was briefly overturned, Escobar celebrated. But the victory didn't last. The next president reinstated it under pressure from Washington. Escobar responded with terror. In August 1989, he ordered the assassination of Luis Carlos Galán, the same man who had expelled him from politics. Weeks later, Escobar's men planted a bomb on Avianca Flight 203, hoping to kill Galán's successor, Cesar Gaviria. Gaviria wasn't on the plane, but 107 innocent people were, including 2 Americans. That attack changed everything. The deaths of U.S. citizens brought Washington into the fight. America declared war on Escobar, and there would be no turning back. The unimaginable fortune and the madness of too much money. By the late 1980s, Pablo Escobar's cartel controlled roughly 80% of the world's cocaine supply. Every single day, more than 15 tons entered the United States alone. The operation involved fleets of planes, ships, submarines, and an army of loyal workers. Escobar had become the king of cocaine, and with that throne came wealth that defied logic. At his peak, the Medellin cartel earned an estimated $420 million every single week. Escobar's personal fortune climbed somewhere between $30 and $60 billion, equivalent to roughly $80 billion today. In 1987, Forbes named him one of the world's richest men, listing his net worth at $3 billion. He stayed on that list for 7 straight years. His wealth showed itself in wild, extravagant ways. Hacienda Nápoles remained his crown jewel, but he also built the Monaco building in Medellin, an 8-story fortress complete with pools, tennis courts, and a panic room. He constructed La Manuela, a lakeside mansion named after his daughter. On Isla Grande in the Caribbean, he owned a private estate with reinforced windows, a helipad, and a pool overlooking the ocean. Escobar was obsessed with cars. His collection included a Porsche 911 Carrera, once driven by Formula One champion Emerson Fittipaldi, a Cadillac styled after Al Capone's, rugged Toyota Land Cruisers nicknamed Narcoyotas, rare Porsche 356As, a Harley Davidson once owned by Frank Sinatra, and even the jet ski from the James Bond film The Spy Who Loved Me. Many of these vehicles were later destroyed in bombings or seized by authorities, their burned shells left on display at Hacienda Nápoles like twisted trophies. Escobar's wealth became so overwhelming that it turned into a logistical nightmare. Cash flooded in faster than it could be laundered, spent, or stored. So it was stuffed into warehouses, buried in fields, hidden behind walls, and locked in underground vaults. His brother Roberto, the cartel's accountant, later admitted that nearly 10% of all stored cash over $2 billion a year was destroyed by rats, mold, and water damage. The waste barely mattered. there was always more. The cartel spent around $2,500 every month just on rubber bands to hold stacks of bills together. On one freezing night, while hiding in the mountains, Escobar burned $2 million in cash just to keep his daughter warm. Money had become so abundant it was treated like kindling. Safe houses across Colombia doubled as vaults. Behind concrete walls, fortunes were stacked floor to ceiling. Farms in Antioquia concealed sealed barrels of cash, many still buried and undiscovered to this day. Some caches were hidden alongside weapons, ledgers, and evidence of the cartel's reach. Rumors spread of tunnels beneath properties, soundproof rooms, and escape passages guarded by hidden doors. Escobar's paranoia fed his need for secrecy. He trusted no bank, no accountant, and only a handful of family members. Money was buried, not balanced. Records were kept in secret ledgers that could never be traced. Each vault was both a lifeline and a symbol of fear, proof that wealth meant nothing if it couldn't be protected from rivals, the state, or betrayal. In one surreal moment, Escobar even offered to pay off Colombia's entire $10 billion national debt in exchange for a guarantee against extradition. The offer was rejected, but it revealed the staggering depth of his fortune and the desperation of a man who knew money alone could no longer shield him. The hunt begins and the empire crumbles. In 1989, President George H.W. Bush authorized a covert mission called Operation Heavy Shadow. Its goal was simple: help Colombia destroy the Medellin cartel. The United States deployed Centra Spike, an elite Army signals unit skilled at tracking fugitives through intercepted phone calls and radio transmissions. Their surveillance forced Escobar into hiding and led to the death of his powerful ally, José Rodríguez Gacha. But Escobar always managed to slip away, protected by corrupt insiders within Colombia's police and military. By mid-1991, he struck a deal with the Colombian government. He would surrender and serve up to 5 years in prison, but only in a facility of his own design. That facility was La Catedral. Built high on a mountain overlooking Medellin, La Catedral was anything but a prison. Escobar handpicked his guards, all loyal to him. The compound featured a soccer field, a bar, a jacuzzi, a waterfall, and even a giant dollhouse. Locals nicknamed it Hotel Escobar and Club Medellin. But beneath the luxury, the design served a darker purpose: survival. Escape routes were built into its structure, including trapdoors, tunnels, and ventilated passageways. Its mountaintop location, often hidden by fog and protected by cliffs, made military assaults nearly impossible. For a time, the arrangement worked. Escobar continued running his cartel from inside, but in 1992, reports emerged that he had tortured and executed 4 of his own men inside La Catedral. The scandal forced the government to act. They demanded his transfer to a real prison. Escobar refused. In July, troops surrounded La Catedral. When they entered, he was gone. Escobar had escaped through a wall built with intentionally weak concrete, breaking through and vanishing into the mist. His foresight in constructing escape routes once again proved vital. After his escape, U.S. Ambassador Morris Busby demanded full American support. President Bush personally backed the plan, and Delta Force America's most secretive counterterrorism team was deployed to Colombia under civilian cover. At the same time, a new enemy emerged: Los Pepes, short for people persecuted by Pablo Escobar. They bombed his estates, threatened his family, and left his associates dead with signs pinned to their bodies. Unlike the state, Los Pepes offered no trials, no deals, no mercy. Leading the hunt was Colonel Hugo Martinez, a hardened officer who had survived assassination attempts and refused a $6 million bribe. His rebuilt search block became a force of 600 men, drilled into a disciplined strike unit with one mission: destroy Escobar. For the first time, Escobar faced an enemy who could not be bribed, intimidated, or bargained with. His network crumbled. Former allies turned informants. His widow, Dolly Moncada, whose husband Escobar had murdered, became a DEA informant and fed investigators exhaustive intelligence. Carlos later, sitting in a U.S. prison, wrote detailed letters describing Escobar's movements, routines, and weaknesses. Fidel Castaño, a paramilitary leader and former associate, also broke ranks and began feeding information to Colombian and U.S. forces. By late 1993, the walls were closing in. Centra Spike had perfected the art of tracking Escobar's phone calls. Despite knowing the risk, he couldn't resist calling his family. On December 2nd, the day after his 44th birthday, Escobar made a long call to his son. It was the slip they'd been waiting for. Within hours, Martinez's men were converging on Medellin's Los Olivos neighborhood. Inside a modest row house, Escobar and his loyal chauffeur, Álvaro de Jesus Agudelo, waited in plain sight. A policeman spotted a long-haired, bearded man in an upstairs window. The assault was swift. The chauffeur bolted first, crashing through a window onto the rooftop. A burst of gunfire cut him down. Escobar followed, armed with 2 pistols, scrambling across the rooftops and returning fire. But 3 bullets struck him, 1 in the leg, 1 in the back, and 1 through the ear. Minutes later, the world's most notorious trafficker lay dead beside his bodyguard. The question of who fired the fatal shot sparked immediate dispute. Some claimed it was a search block officer. Others insisted it was a member of Los Pepes. Conspiracy theorists said U.S. agents pulled the trigger. No conclusive witness emerged. The official autopsy named a gunshot to the head as the cause of death, but raised new questions. When his body was exhumed in 2006, no new answers appeared. In 2020, forensic tests supported a theory that the headshot was delivered by a 9mm handgun at close range, leading some to believe Escobar took his own life rather than be captured. Others suspected it was a final execution delivered by one of his hunters. Despite the uncertainty, one fact remained. Escobar's reign ended that day. His body, lowered from the rooftop, was photographed with grim satisfaction. For many Colombians, it was freedom after years of terror. For others, it just meant one brand of violence had been replaced by another. What was really hidden in the vaults? Even before his death, whispers circulated about secret caches scattered across Colombia and beyond. In the early 1980s, Escobar purchased a pastel-pink mansion on Miami's North Bay Road. Locals suspected it was used as both a hideout and a storage site. By the mid-1980s, U.S. authorities seized the mansion, convinced safes were embedded inside its walls and foundation. After Escobar was killed, the search intensified. Police and soldiers raided his estates, tearing apart walls and digging through courtyards. At Hacienda Nápoles, they uncovered underground vaults. Yet despite the scale of these raids, only fragments of the hidden fortune surfaced. In 2016, new owners demolished Escobar's Miami mansion. Workers discovered heavy concrete safes embedded in the foundation. One safe disappeared before it could be examined, sparking rumors of theft. Another was moved under armed guard to a Florida bank. A sealed metal cylinder was found beneath the kitchen stove, but it was empty. In 2017, the Discovery Channel launched Finding Escobar's Millions. Former CIA operatives combed through Colombia with drones, ground-penetrating radar, and metal detectors. They investigated cartel estates and farmland, even uncovering a safe that ultimately held nothing. The series revealed the sophistication of Escobar's methods: safes lined with lead, vaults disguised within walls, and bunkers reinforced with concrete. In 2020, Escobar's nephew Nicolas claimed to have discovered $18 million inside one of his uncle's old Medellin houses. He said a vision guided him to the spot where he uncovered bundles of bills wrapped in plastic, along with a gold pen, a typewriter, and a satellite phone. Most of the money had decayed beyond use. Nicolas admitted he had found other caches in the past, but refused to share details. Over the decades, Colombian authorities have published photographs of real discoveries. $4 million in barrels in 1989, $25 million with gold bars in 1990, $10 million at Hacienda Nápoles in 2009, and countless smaller finds. Officially, the government has recovered about $75 million. But investigators believe at least 10 times that amount may still lie hidden, rotting in the ground or waiting to be uncovered. But money and weapons were only part of the story. Hidden in waterproof containers, investigators uncovered ledgers and documents far more dangerous than firearms. They detailed shipment schedules, coded financial transactions, and extensive lists of bribes paid to politicians, police, and judges. In precise handwriting, these records map the reach of the Medellin cartel, stretching from Colombia to Miami and beyond into Europe. For prosecutors, these ledgers were invaluable, offering a rare blueprint of how Escobar's empire operated. Frighteningly, the vaults weren't the only thing Escobar took his time to craft. Former associates and locals described soundproof, windowless rooms fitted with hooks and drainage systems, hinting at torture or interrogation chambers. Though investigators never formally documented such sites, the accounts matched Escobar's reputation for ruthless intimidation. Even decades after his fall, whispers continue to rise from the Colombian soil. Locals in Medellin still speak of strange sounds beneath their feet, machines humming in the night, earth shifting where no one dares to dig. Some claim entire vehicles disappeared underground, swallowed by Escobar's hidden network. Former cartel members, now old and gray, recall blueprints drawn on napkins, maps of chambers laced with booby traps and reinforced walls. They say Escobar didn't just hide from the law, he built a kingdom beneath the surface, a mirror world that reflected his paranoia and genius. When archaeologists and special units revisited some of his abandoned properties in the 2000s, ground-penetrating radar detected anomalies, voids deep below, too symmetrical to be natural. A few were explored. Inside, they found evidence of long-forgotten activity: rusted oxygen tanks, mold-covered crates, and a faint trace of human presence. The tunnels were narrow but expertly crafted, curving back toward the surface like veins of a sleeping beast. Some ended abruptly collapsed, as if sealed deliberately. Rumors suggest that not all of Escobar's hidden chambers have been found. Villagers report private excavation attempts at night, treasure hunters vanishing without a trace. Authorities believe several vaults still lie buried under layers of jungle and concrete, guarded by the ghosts of those who once served him. Escobar's story is more than history. It's a living myth, breathing through Colombia's hills. His empire may have crumbled, but somewhere beneath the earth, his shadow still waits.